as further confirmation of last week's bleak unemployment figures, nearly 11.5 million people have registered for the COVID-19 Relief of Distress grant since it was recently reinstated. It may only be 350 rand a month, but it can help some people keep food on the table. Let's get the latest on the grant rollout now from Paseka Letsatsi from the Social Security Agency, SASSA. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I wonder if you can confirm for us how many people have so far successfully registered for the SRD grant.
Good evening, Sally, and thanks for having us. The South African Social Security Agency can confirm that we have more than 11 million people, of which we have received their application. Some of them are busy being validated. However, some of them have been approved, and the payment has been going since last week.
All right, so how many payments have you approved so far?
The good news is that we started at 6,000, Sally, and over time we increased to 750. And as we sit now, we are paying more than 1.5 million applicants. Is that
every day?
Not necessarily every day, Sally. We remember I said we started at 6,000. We increased to 250,000. We went to 700. The intention was to make sure that we reach 2.5 million. The intention actually at the end is to make sure that everybody who has applied, remember people did not apply on the same day, all of them. And so what we are trying to do is to make sure that as we progress, everybody who qualifies gets paid on time and the money gets deposited in their banking account or in the post office.
And is it right that nearly 11.5 million people have in fact qualified?
Yes, no. What we can simply say is that more than 11 million people have applied. However, some of them are still going through the process of validation. The numbers can go down, or they can stay constant where they are, or they can increase. But we are definitely making sure that we validate, because what we simply do, Sally, when you make an application, we bounce it with the other government agencies just to check that there's no double dipping. We know that there are people who are on the NSFAS database, and those people cannot necessarily get what they are getting at NSFAS and get this 350 grand again. So these are some of the people that, as we do the validation process, might fall off the system. But obviously, I think in the next week or so, we'll then be able to know those people who could not make it towards the approval and so on.
Yeah, speaking of people applying who shouldn't be, I mean, we were quite gobsmacked with the news last week that through that process, I think of the checks and balances, SASSA had picked up that a number of government employees, including SASSA employees, were trying to claim this SRD grant as well. I mean, it's disgusting, in fact, because you've already got a job and there are people in such desperate need. Are you able to give me more details? How many people actually were trying to benefit unduly from this grant?
Thanks, Ellie, for that question, because we need to clarify it. The people who were caught on the 350 application, it was in the last cycle who were picked up by the AG. There are some public servants. There are those who are at the local government who were caught having applied in the system. And it was in the last cycle. This time around, we have not yet picked up people who have applied for the 350. The number of people that we picked up are people who are in the mainstream social grants, people who might have applied for the child support grant or whatever grant that SASSA offers. But because we are obviously upgrading our system, we managed to pick some of those people up. But the good news is that this category of people, we have summarily suspended the payment. The investigation is taking place, because in some instances, we don't just want to accuse people without getting proper information or proper data.
Yeah.
Because, for example, someone who gets a foster care grant, whether you get you are working or you get being paid, you are being paid on a monthly basis, we can qualify to get the foster care grant. So we need to make sure that we remove these people from the
Sure, I
general
understand.
payment.
I completely understand, and it sounds like you've been quite successful. I want to go back to what you just highlighted. So it was with the last period of paying out this COVID grant that SASSA was able to pick up that, in fact, some SASSA employees were trying to get their hands on this grant. I want to know what's happened to those people who tried to defraud the Social Security Agency. Are they facing criminal charges?
No, definitely, Sally, what we can simply tell you is that our fraud management division has picked these people up, an investigation took place, and obviously after we established whether people defrauded the system or it was just purely an application, we simply take the information to the South African Police Services. And I think what we are doing is to make sure that we follow it thorough to make sure that the conviction takes place. But you remember, Sally, what you can simply do is to identify and give it to the South African Police Services. And we are confident that the law will definitely make sure that those who are in the wrong will be thrown behind bars.
Yes, of course. Obviously, investigation has to proceed. Are you able to tell me how many cases you handed over to the police?
So far, there are those who have been suspended. There are, I think, close to about 100 cases which are under the microscope. We will definitely get a report from our fraud management unit to basically give us an update, because the intention is to make sure that we keep being updated on a weekly basis so that we understand where we can then be able to give the information to the public, because some of this information is important for us to share it with the public. The intention is to make sure that people do not necessarily do what is wrong, because this money is not meant for me or for any other person, but it's meant for those who are struggling. People do not have anything to put on the table. So we don't think anybody who is working, who is able to get a salary, can go and take the money which is not meant for them.
Absolutely. It's not just greedy, it's also criminal. And thank you very much for that update. Much appreciated. Paseka Letsatsi from the Social Security Agency, SASSA. My word, over 11 million people due to receive that SRD grant. And good to hear that they're clamping down on people within government who previously were potentially have found to try and claim that grant for themselves. Let's move